Hello and welcome to today's session of Sail Your Business Through the Storm, and today we are looking at managing your finances, managing your treasure while in the storm, while in a crisis. How do you manage your treasure? And with me is a very special guest, the founder, director of Focus Universal, and he is a debt specialist. He works with entrepreneurs, with individuals in managing their debt. He is a life coach. He is an author of several books. And karibu sana Roy for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Asante sana. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been sailing our businesses through this season of COVID. And COVID has brought unprecedented moments in our lives, in our businesses, both from a family point to the corporate, and we are in a volatile and uncertain environment, and we don't know how to navigate. So we've just been trying to row our boats and steering our ships in an uncertain way. How are you doing yourself as Roy Okonji and in your business in this season?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me congratulate you and the church for coming up with this. Business people need this quite badly at a time like this. To your question, how am I doing?
Yes.
First of all, I'm fine. I'm healthy. I thank God I'm strong.
Staying safe.
Staying safe, still surviving. My business is still there, has not closed, I thank God, because a lot of things have happened now. But a few things have happened. I've just appreciated more the importance of flexibility in business, because it is now clearer that the business world is not predictable. Actually, life entirely is not predictable. And when this thing started, I was among the first casualties of COVID-19, because when crowds were stopped, and my business largely depends on crowds, so all the business bookings that I had gotten for March, April, May, and now June, all of them were withdrawn, suspended, cancelled in quick succession. If I showed you the emails, you would laugh. They were coming as though those guys are in a WhatsApp group and they have decided
they've agreed, Roy Okonji,
let us pause this. And so when that was happening, I was asking myself, so where is this going? And how then do I adjust myself to remain relevant? Because if I'm not careful, then this is the time you want to give up. And then I remembered I'm the one who tries to give people hope, to tell people not to give up. So if I am the one to start giving up, then things will not be fine. So I looked at my business and asked myself, which side of business can still push through? And I realized during this time, people are still at home, and people can be reading books at home. So my first line of defense was to start saying more about books, and started receiving a few orders here. I'm at home, do you deliver and what have you? And so I adjusted quickly to start home delivery of books, and that started doing a bit amazingly. And then we started thinking about online. I also got a chance to work on my 6th book. So I really don't have time. I may not be as active business-wise, but I'm creating content for something that is cooking, and I'm also working on that book. I call it the Corona book, so that once we are through with this storm, then I have a Corona baby to give to the world. So we thank God. This far, we're still fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just going into the discussion of today, we are in the 3rd month of this COVID-19.
Sure.
And no sooner had we started, this is January, where there is a city called Wuhan in China, and it's just a story. Of course, we trade with China, and so there is we start feeling kidogo. Later the US, the Europe, February, it's all blown.
Yes.
March, it's with us.
Here.
The businesses started with, it's a new year, it's a new decade. Budgets,
yes,
cash flow plans, projections of revenue and profitability.
Yes.
No sooner had we started POS.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a business owner, let me first go to what do you hear from these business people? What are they saying? 4 months, 5 months into the year, what are they saying?
Wow. The business person is now coming out of getting surprised, because this thing got almost everyone unawares. A few people could see the impact the way it is today. As you've said, it was a Wuhan thing, it was a Western thing, and then before long, it was with us. So I hear business people crying loudly about money management, because when a business is hit, we start feeling the hit from a financial perspective, right? And, yes, and that's where you start feeling like I'm not in my normal operating environment. So many are crying because of the hit they feel financially. Many are not able to meet their obligations. They have delayed in paying the people they owe. They have delayed in paying employees. Profitability has been affected, and there is hit. There is hit, and many are asking, so how do we adjust to this hit? Sadly, I've also spoken to many who have folded. Yes, and others who have just suspended operations. Hopefully when the storm is over, then they come back. I've also spoken to others who have readjusted, closed their usual business, and thought of other businesses to survive that are relevant in this season. Yeah.
Wow. So finance is about numbers.
Yes.
We had our business plans, we had our revenue projections, our budgets in place, our cash flows, and now we don't know whether they're any useful. What are the priorities now?
Wow.
We are still in the uncertain. What are the priorities now as far as our business plans, our cash flows, our budgets are concerned?
Wow. It's a good question. Actually, it's you're voicing the concerns of many businesses right now. It is true, we started with plans, we had budgets, we had projections, we had aspirations, we had resolutions, and many of us had said this is going to be a great year. And it indeed will be a great year. I still believe so. This is a small test, a test of resilience and a test of our adaptability to changing situations. Now, are they still relevant? Yes, they are relevant for inspiration purposes, for us to look at them and say, this is where I wanted to be, right? And for us then to ask ourselves, do we just fold all these plans and throw them away? We don't have to throw them away, but we have to think about readjustment. What is the priority at a time like this, right? The general overall business model is still the same. Profit is coming from revenue less cost, and therefore, for us to manage profit, then we have to look at those two things, revenue and cost, right? So we have to play with them. Let me start with cost, the far end. The concern usually on a normal day has been to keep costs lower as you try to increase your revenue, right? So now we are in a special season that requires us to think in a unique way. So then how do we keep our costs low at a time like this, right? And that is when then we begin to think of strategies like, first of all, you need to look at how you've been spending money. Where have you been spending money, right? Then which areas of your expenditure are core, must remain at a time like this, and which areas can be reduced or done away with because of special season, right? So under cost management, we start by looking at the expenditure that is direct to the business, right? If you are in a business, because again it will depend with the nature of your business, right? Some people have been in the business of supplying stuff, and they would want to supply. But before you want to continue, ask yourself whether your market is still existing in a time like this, because there are businesses that have been closed. For example, if you were supplying to hotels, and hotels in the area of your domain have been closed, then you need to sit back and ask yourself whether you still need to buy to continue supplying. So those are fundamental questions that you need to ask yourself. Then there is also the people that you owe, right? Your creditors. Now, these people want money from you, and so it's an expense. You need to pay them, right? You need to pick money from the business and pay them. It's an obligation that you need to fulfill, but then the way you will fulfill it will be different, because then you need to also engage them. Depending on your situation and how strong your reserves are, you need to engage them and perhaps renegotiate. Either ask for a longer period of time or then ask for a flexible repayment model, right? You can also look at your employees. You've been having employees, they've been coming to an office, all of them. What changes can you then undertake, given the circumstances that we are in, to reduce your cost? Can they work remotely from home? And that will begin to reduce office administrative expenditure from the office perspective. Office tea and things like those can begin to reduce at that point. Now look at your staff and see, do you need all of them at a time like this? It's unfortunate that at a time like this, some roles will fall away, some roles will be suspended painfully, but it's the reality of business, because even post-COVID, we will still need the businesses to be available, to even re-employ, to take back the people they used to have. So sadly, some roles might need to be relaxed a bit, and then you might need to think about remaining with roles that are key to the business. Now you also need to talk to your customers. Now talking to your customers is to try and urge them to pay faster than they have been paying. If you've been giving them items on credit, maybe up to 90 days, maybe you want now to reduce that to 30 days or something like that, to encourage them to pay upfront. So you have to engage them. It's a balance between how you manage what you send out and how you encourage what comes in, right? So you have to also engage your customers to just have them want to pay you early enough. Then, and I'm sure we will talk about this, the debts that you have. This is the time when you also have to really be in charge, because they also take money from the business, and you want to keep what comes out of the business as low as it can possibly get. So that would be a number one priority on the side of managing cost. And there's this side of revenue growth, and this is very important, that even as we go through this storm, if your business is surviving the storm, if your business is to continue running, then something must be coming in. Something must be coming in. So what do you ask yourself here? You want to ask yourself, how do I keep money coming in this business? That means then you have to continue selling what you've been selling. So this is the time then you want to tell yourself that you have to continue selling. But then you have to adjust a few things. You might need to adjust your marketing strategy. If your marketing strategy has been costly, then you must need to sit down and think of other ways, like online marketing, that will be less costly. People are now at home. How do you reach them? If you've been doing road shows and stuff like that, now you can't do
Billboard
advertisements and what have you. Now you can't do that. So then what do you do that will get to people at home that will be less costly, right? At a time like this, to still boost your revenue so that people can still buy you. Now you might also need to think about how to adjust what you've been offering the market. If it has been rendered irrelevant now, so what else can you bring to the market that will be relevant at a time like this, so that then some income can keep coming? So you have to adjust your revenue streams as well in your business, so that then you have something coming even as you lower your cost, because concentrating on lowering cost and nothing is coming is only short-lived. You will do that for a month or two, then you realize your business can't move anywhere. So right now, the focus is on being conservative in expenditure. Conservative in expenditure, even as you remain optimistic in getting revenue coming. But then we have to be innovative in the way we manage cost and in the way we keep revenue coming.
Wow. And you've captured basically the areas that every business person should be looking at. You look at how to manage your revenue, cost management. You also mentioned on how to manage your cash flows from both from a customer, cash inflows, how to push your customers to have them in, suppliers, how do you manage the payments, but also on debt structuring. So those are the 4 or 5 areas that are very critical as far as finances is concerned. Now, to pick up from the last point you talked about on revenue management, what will be critical? Let me start with the top line, then we can go to the bottom line. What's the priority? Revenue growth, or is it just to sustain on revenue? You know, in this season, you've mentioned a little of ways to diversify. Probably you can delve a little into how do I ensure that my top line is still very rich.
The starting point is for us to evaluate our businesses, to understand our businesses, to really evaluate the blow of COVID-19 on your business, for you to determine whether you are trying to survive in this season or you're actually sailing through the season. If you realize that you are only trying to survive, that means that your business has been affected. It is, for lack of a better word, almost irrelevant in this season. Then you're trying to keep it afloat. That means that even if you would have wished to push, maybe the market for your product is seriously affected. So you are just trying to survive. So for such a business, then the focus will be on trying to survive, right? So you will be looking at ways of just trying to get revenue that can keep your business afloat in this season. And that is if you are not able to reinvent your business and come up with something that can be relevant. And I want to encourage business people to really think in a time like this how they can reinvent themselves. What other product? In this season, we're going to have crazy diversification models. We are going to have to see businesses going into areas they have never thought they would go into because their main area has been grossly affected. So don't just sit there and say, I used to trade in this, now that it's affected, I'm done. Think about any other thing that you can do that will help you survive now. Now there's a business that we realize that COVID has actually created its space for thriving now. There are people who are just singing hallelujah and just thanking God for the way the situation is. For those guys, their focus can also be to grow. Okay? Because them, they are past surviving. The environment allows them to sail through. So then the question for them is, how do I capitalize on this situation? These couple of months ahead of me, how do I then make sure that I get the most out of it? So for them, the thought would be around expansion.
On to cost management.
Yes.
What will be the priorities? With the little kit here I have, there is direct cost, there is staffing, there is rent. What should be my priority as a business person? I have all these costs that you've mentioned, but how should I prioritize on what is critical?
So first of all, you want to cushion the costs that are direct to the business, the costs that can easily affect the business and send the business packing. But even as you focus on them, this might not be the season for you perhaps to do 100% of what you used to do. And this is the time then we want to renegotiate and talk to the service providers, talk to the people, to the cost centers, and just want to negotiate with them. If it's your landlord, you just want to talk to them and tell them times are like this and my business is performing this way, and just request for flexibility. Amazingly, I have also met people whose landlords have actually reduced rent for them after they spoke with them. Some landlords would allow flexibility where you can pay this and this, then at the end of the season we will look at the arrears and plan on how to go about it. So you have to be real with the realities of your business,
Yeah.
right? But most crucial, you will need your employees if you have employees. You will need your customers. You will need your suppliers. These are not the people you want to lose. So even if you are pressed financially, please communicate with them. If there is anything the viewers will take from this, two things. Communication is going to be key in this particular season, and flexibility. Communication with the main stakeholders. Talk to them. Don't run away. Don't switch off your phone. Talk to these guys. This is a global thing. All of us are feeling the heat, and it's not just you, so don't run away. The worst you can do, when I teach about debt, I like telling people that the psychology of lending is such that the lender wants to know that you have their interests at heart. The way you demonstrate you have their interests at heart is by you reaching out. It's not by you switching off your phone. When you switch off your phone, you give permission to the lender to engage a higher gear in chasing after you, right? So these people that I've mentioned are critical, and right now, anyone welcomes any gesture from a person who owes them money. Anyone, if you see a call coming of someone you supplied things to, you will really gladly pick it, because you want to hear something positive coming from that direction. So that would be my approach, because it's going to vary from business to business.
Thank you. Now, as an entrepreneur, a small entrepreneur, let me use my example. I had a kitty at the beginning of the year, and with this kitty that is still there, I'm torn between, do I reserve this cash for uncertainty, or do I pay off my debts, I pay off my suppliers, and I remain with the minimum expenditure and know how to manage?
Wow, interesting question. It's interesting because of the mention of the word peace. Peace and the world of entrepreneurship, they're like this. Largely when you sink into the business world, it's a world of solution searching and solution giving. So if you experience peace, it's just temporary peace. Anyway, people are different. There are people who value their peace so much that they would rather pay off their debt and just remain peaceful. But then one would want to wonder, why did you go into debt in the beginning? Now, you have debt, you have a small kitty, the season is here with you. But this debt you've been paying gradually. So then do you use your kitty to pay off the debt and then have peace? But my question is, after you use your kitty to pay off debt, if this debt came to help your business and you've been paying gradually, so if you use the kitty to clear the debt, then how are the other aspects of your business going to survive? This is that time when we want to just converse with our lenders. This is that time when we want flexibility. You feel hit if you're not able to perform in accordance to the expectations of your lender, right? You've been paying them 10K per month for the debt that you have. Now you are in a position where you feel 10K is quite a lot. That's when the question of peace begins to come in, because you feel your peace has been encroached. And this is the time then you reach out to your lender. And interestingly, many lenders have opened their ears now. They are willing to listen to you. I've had different banks say, as long as you're able to demonstrate that you've been affected by COVID, they'll be willing to hear you out. Now, you go to your lender to talk, to negotiate. But before you reach out to them, be sure you know what you're going to negotiate about. Many of us will call lenders because we have said talk to your lenders. But then if you don't know what you're going to talk about, the lender will be pulling their direction. Okay? Because in this season, everyone wants to maximize what benefits them. So the lender will be pushing you to clear the debt. But you are also pressed by your own issues. So no way you are going to negotiate. You could be going to negotiate for the repayment amount to be lowered. Maybe now you realize you can't pay 10K, you can pay 5,000 per month. So you reach out to your lender and tell them, my business has been affected this way, and I think I'm not able to continue paying 10,000, I can be paying 5,000 for this season, right? There are others who completely may not afford anything. you still reach out to them and tell them, my business has been affected this way. I'm trying to reorganize myself. But while at it, it's unfortunate that I may not be able to give anything. It is better than keeping quiet and staying off. The two of you have not paid anything, but the one who reached out and communicated is better off because they have the peace. You are disturbed, you have to switch off your phone. You have to wish that the lender is not calling. In fact, when evening comes, you're so happy that the lender has not called. Because I said, this is the time we want to be as conservative as possible. So whatever we have in the name of a kitty, this is the time we want to hold on to it for as long a time as possible, just to keep the business surviving. Or if the business is performing, then to boost the performance of the business. So if you use that kitty to clear off your debt, then there's going to be trouble. So that would be my approach. Don't just at the expense of the business survival, think about peace and rush to clear. Yet the business still depends on this small kitty for its day-to-day survival. You can still buy the peace by negotiating to have a flexible repayment approach.
Now, the government has made a number of interventions to help the small and medium enterprises, including moratoriums. There are some, facilities that will be provided. The bank also is coming in, and other organizations. At what point do we take advantage of these opportunities? Of course, our businesses are different. Someone will take advantage of that, a deferral. There are many school of thoughts. They will say, that loan will still exist. The interest will still be earned, even if the penalty are not there. The interest is still accruing. So, what are some of these opportunities that the government, the banks has offered? And at what point as a business do I find this is good for me? Because not everyone should go and defer.
No, not everyone. And that's a super question. When the president made that particular statement that evening, I saw some excitement in the air, and especially when they mentioned about CRB. And some people thought that their sins were forgiven, and this was a blanket statement that if you are listed in CRB, then you get removed. And then and people were so hopeful. But the implication of that to a business person is like this. The president said that adverse listings for loans that would be in arrears from 1st of April should not be done going forward. Now, this is the advantage. If you're in a business that is performing in this season and you want to borrow some money, maybe you've gotten a tender to supply, say, face masks, for example, and you don't have adequate money to finance that particular business. Now you could approach the bank. Even if your loans would have gone into arrears from beginning of April, you could still approach your bank and borrow money to finance the LPO. Had the adverse listing been done in absence of the president's declaration, then perhaps that borrowing would not have been possible. So that is the advantage to business people. Then he mentioned about VAT, the reduction from 16 to 14. And people are not seeing the essence.
2%.
2% looks like a small thing, but it's not a small thing if you look at it well. Yeah, in business, every coin counts, right? If you're to sell something at 100 shillings and you are to sell it at 98, many people will sell at 100 because the 2 shillings is so critical. So you don't start saying 2% is small. Now, what that means then is that the 2% is going to remain with you to boost your liquidity for you to continue surviving a few things here and there. It could pay your electricity bill, it could pay your water bill and things like that. So it's still important. Then there was the reduction of the corporate tax, I think from 30 to 25.
Which is quite significant.
That is significant. Yeah. If you ask people in employment, those that have tested the change from their, I think theirs was also 30 to 25.
Yeah.
It's significant.
It was.
People have told me they never thought it meant a lot, but it did. It did. And so that particular difference is what is supposed to boost your liquidity as a business person. But now, different businesses will take advantage of different initiatives, right? There's a business that will take advantage of the CRB thing. There's a business that will take advantage of the VAT thing. A business that is engaging VAT related transactions every day knows the importance of the change from 16 to 14, right? A business that is borrowing so frequently knows the importance of the declaration of not listing people for loans that are in arrears from 1st of April going forward. So it is for you to understand your business and then begin to ask yourself, what can you tap into? In that whole declaration, what can you tap into? Right now there is a lot of flexibility. Do not box yourself. Why I say I like business conversations is because even when you go to the bank, business facilities are not cast in stone. Unlike personal facilities where they say, bring your pay slip, this is the formula, this is what you can qualify. In business, we talk. That's why banks have relationship managers for SMEs. You get there and engage in a conversation. I have this business, I need to supply this. I had borrowed the other month, but this is a fresh business. They will give you money as long as you meet their criteria for lending. So don't box yourself. If you're in business, be flexible. Speak out your issues. Business people speak out. We are in the business of thinking solutions and giving solutions. So in that particular process, talk out your issues.
Wow. Very insightful, especially as regards to managing our debt and our cash flows.
Yes.
But now the critical and what speaks to everyone, either to the board, to the owner of the business, is the bottom line.
Yeah.
As we summarize, how would you advise my entrepreneur on how I can still have a positive bottom line? That's a profit.
Wow. My appeal would be for business people not to really be in despair because of what is happening. They can still maximize on the bottom line, keep their costs low as it can possibly get. Be innovative, don't injure people as you try to keep costs low. Just be innovative, make sure you keep your relationships because you still need them and you will need them. Then keep revenue coming, because that equation still holds whether there is COVID or not. Profit will always come from the balance between revenue and costs. So keep revenue coming, be innovative about it. Keep costs low, be innovative about it. Just be flexible. But by now we should have adjusted. For those who have not, just use the next 1 month to adjust. But then focus on how to build business, how to ensure revenue is coming, so that then the bottom line can also still be in a positive direction.
Fellow entrepreneur, I hope you are getting these rich conversations, and I want you to just place your questions, your comments, and for the Sail Your Business participants who are moving through our Zoom program, please share your questions so that when we'll have the Q&A with our special guest Roy, we'll be able to address those ones. And Roy, as I complete and as we finalize on this session, you said it's been 3 months, we have taken some lessons. Of course, we need to institute some policies and some structures that will ensure we are still sustainable. Your final word to the entrepreneur on an effective financial management strategy that will help them to still sail in the storm. Your
final word will be final word. Final word will be me reminding people of those 2 things that I have said: flexibility, communication. Most important, flexibility. Whatever strategy we will come up with. Of course, after the storm hit, we should have gone back to the drawing board and asked ourselves, how do we survive this? If you haven't, go back to the drawing board. But then as you come up with whatever strategy, make sure that it's reflecting flexibility and that the element of communication will come out. But I must, as I conclude, say, do not waste your corona pain. Make sure your business comes out, or you as a person emerge out of this season with something positive, with lessons that will help your business going forward, or perhaps taking advantage of the situation if it's favorable to your business currently. Don't waste your corona pain, gain from it.
Thank you. Don't waste your corona pain, gain from it. take the lessons, take the opportunities that come with it. In your revenue, may you reorganize, may you identify new opportunities in it. While at that, maintain your cost, and you will ensure that your bottom line is still positive and your cash flows are well managed. Thank you very much for being with us, and next week we look at sales management. How do we automate and how do we ensure that our customers still are working with us? May the Lord bless you. May He walk with you through this sailing, and may you thrive even in this season. God bless you.